All right. Last class we started with the DOM, even though towards the end of the video the mic was not working. So I'm going to be starting from where we stopped. But before I get there, let me just go over the stuff once again briefly. So we have the DOM, which is the document object model. So this is the object that the browser is giving to us through JavaScript, or that the browser is using to model the content we have on a page. So any page you are working on, a document object will be created, which is the one that the browser given to you that you can use to perform operations on the content you have on the page. Once you load your page through JavaScript, you can always use this document to interact with the content that you have on the page. So through JavaScript, using the document, you'll be able to, whatever you're doing is just the page, the current page you're working on. Once you go to another page or once you go to another tab, that's another document entirely. So the document here is quite different from the document here. Each tab or each page that you open on have the document created for them, and you can use that document from JavaScript to interact with the content on the page. And you know, when you want to do something with the content of the page, we have something known as this CRUD, which is you creating, read, update, or delete. These are the operations you are going to be performing on the page. There is that you create something that is not there before, or you query or you read something that is already there, or you update something that is there, or the stuff that you want to add to the page and so forth like that, or you remove something from the page. So you are going to be carrying out this action. And yesterday we started with how we can read or query the content we have on the page. So we talked about how to select elements by using our this thing, get element by ID, or query selector, or query selector all, depending on which method. And I told you yesterday, this get element by ID, it's not that useful these days again. In the olden days it's useful, but these days it's not that useful because it's not always possible that you go to the page and you start giving all the element ID. But if your element have ID on it and you want to target through the ID, you can always use this document, then get element by ID, then followed by the ID of the elements that you want to target. And this is the document that the browser is giving us. So whatever page where you are loading this JavaScript, it will have access to all the content on that page. And from those content here, you can locate any content, or you read any content that you need there by using this get element by ID. But I told you I will not be using this because I want to be able to do more by using this query selector, because this one allows you to select based on CSS selector. So you can quickly select something that is inside, or select one element that is inside another element, or one element that follows another element, and so forth like that. So it makes it easier to select. But you know, when you're using query selector, it only gives you the first item if multiple items are matching this selector you have there. So if you have multiple items on the page and it's targeting all of it, will never give you all of them. It will only give you the first one it can find on the page. And if you need all of them, then you are going to be using query selector all. So this one now, the first one will only give us the first span that we have on this page, which is going to be the span that we have here. So this is the first one. Query selector will only give you this. But when you're using query selector all with the second one, so it's going to give you all of them. So this is one, this is another one, this is another one. So it will give you three of them. So if you need all the element that matches this selector, use query selector all. But if you only need the first one, or you know that it's just one item you are looking for, use query selector. So this one will only return the first one. If there's multiple there, and this one will only return all of them. Even if it is one, it will still return in a form of a array there. Yes.
What do I want to select the third span?
And then that means your selector here, you put the selector. That's why I said I'm going to be using this query selector, because here you can put your selector here that will target a specific element you are looking for. But if that what I'm saying, if that your selector is now selecting multiple elements, that means this one will only give you the first one. Why this one will give you all of them? But if it's just one item that is there, so this one will just return that one item. But I'm just telling you that you should note, if there are multiple items there, this one doesn't return all of them. It's only the first one. Why this one will always return all of them? Even if it is one, it will return in a form of array. It's not array, I mentioned it yesterday, but it looks like array there like that. Then after you've gotten your element, what do you want to do with it? One of the things you can do there is to update the content, which is something I've really explained yesterday. I've explained what is inner text content, inner HTML, so you can check that video out. Again, too, we talked about the class, which is where the audio actually stop. So when you want to manipulate or you want to update the class of your element, for example, on the page here, I have this my element, and clicking on this element, you see that it have this particular ID on it, which is this heading. So we can target that element. For example, here I'm selecting this heading at the top. So we are selecting any element that have this particular ID because I'm using query selector. So you have to use CSS selector inside the box. And what do we want to do there now? We want to manipulate the class of that element. So in order for you to manipulate the class of the element, you can always use this class list. There's still other way of doing it, but this is the best way, or this is the modern way of working with the classes on your element. So what does this one do? It helps you to add to the class you have there. Apart from adding, what you can do there is to remove. So this one help you to add. It can help you to remove a particular class. It can help you to toggle a particular class, which means that when that class is there, it will remove it. But if it's not there, then it add it to the list. And we have contain. We check whether that particular class is there or not. For example, here now, as you can see, I'm adding multiple classes, but it's not a must that you have to add multiple. You can add one, or it's one or more are there. So this one now, what is going to do currently, if you're going back to the page, you see that there is no class on that element, but through JavaScript we can add the class. And once this one is saved and it was able to locate the element, you see that it has added a class. And again, to see that the styles has taken place. Why? Because we don't want to be using this method to be applying our CSS. We've already created a class already in CSS. The only thing we are just doing is to attach it to that element. Normally, what you used to do before is to put it directly inside your HTML. But sometimes, most of all these classes, they are not going to be there. The only time they are going to be there is when something happens on a page. And when you don't need it again, you should be able to remove it. And in order for you to be able to do that, through JavaScript, you can use add to add any class that is not there before. And the stuff is smart. So if I do it again multiple times, you see that it's only one that is going to be there. Even though it's the same class I'm adding, it's smart. So once the thing is there already, it will not add it. There won't be any duplicate. But if you are doing this thing yourself, you have to be doing all this checking. But this add is doing all those stuff for us behind the scene. Your own is just to add whatever. But now if they are different, then it's going to add all of them. So if this one is 2 and this one is 3, so since the texts are not the same, then by the time you get to the page, you see it will add all of them like that. So there will be heading text 2 and heading text 3. But if they are the same, only one of them will be added to the page. Apart from adding, so you can remove too like that. So this one too is smart. So when you add something, or when you have the class there and you want to remove it, if that class is not there before, you will not even see anything. The only class we have there is just this. Or let me even comment this one out, and let me remove this one too. So save, go back to the page, you will not see anything. So if the class is not even there before, it will not do anything. You just ignore it like that. So the same thing too, you can always toggle. So and what does toggle does there is that it will check if that class is there. If it's there, it will add, but if it's not there, it will remove. So save this now. Going back to the page, you see that it will be added because we don't have that class there before in the HTML. But if you go back to the HTML, go back to the heading, then give it that class. So here now, let me give it a class, which is going to be heading text like this. For now, let me just give you this heading text. You see that heading text will be there, and the heading text too is going to be added. But now going back to the JavaScript, this is not what I want to toggle. What I want to toggle is heading text. So save now, and by the time you go to the page, as you can see, it is no longer there because even though we put it from the HTML. So since toggle sees that, oh, this thing is there before now, then it's just like your on and off. So if it is on, the only thing you can do is to off, and if it is off, the only thing you can do is to turn it on, and that's what it's doing there like that. So if it is there, it will remove it, but if it's not there, then it will add into the list like that. So this one is really useful when you want to do something like this. As you can see here, you either toggle on and off. There is no thing like if it is so once it's on, the next thing is to off, and once it's off, the next thing is to on, and that's what it's doing, and that's what you can always use for something like this, because there's a class that is being added on this element. So if this thing is clicked, what you are just doing is toggling, because you don't care about whether it's open, or you know that that thing will check automatically for you. So if it is there, you know that thing will have the class. If it is not there, but if it is there right now that the class is there, so once you click again, it will remove the class. Those are the magic that is going on behind the scene. And apart from toggle, another thing you can do is to check whether that class is there or not, which will return true or false, like that. So that's where the mic stopped yesterday. And again, we talked about how to create element. Don't forget, we are talking about CRUD. So we've talked about how you can read and how you can update some of the content, not all of them, some of the content. And what are the updates that we're able to do? We're able to change the text, and we're able to manipulate the class, update the class, or add the class. But again, it will be nice if we are able to create our element, because not all the element that you want to work with, or not all the content you have on the page that are going to be there the first time users go there. Like that, for example, like this site or this page, simple site for food application there. Maybe like item 7, you go there, you want to order something, and the next thing they click on add to cart. But look at it now, the way the stuff was being displayed here is quite different from what we have now. So this element is being generated on the fly, because you don't know. The only time you know that this thing will be there is when someone click on it, and once you click, it changes the UI from the way it used to be. And again, so you look at the color, see that the color has been added, so there's a class being added to that stuff. Again, this button now is changing the content of what we have here, but that's not the major thing. The changing of content, what we have after here is that the element that is not there before, we're able to create it, and at the same time place it wherever you want it to appear. Again, to clicking on this confirm, you see another thing comes outside. All these things, they are not there before on the page, they are being generated directly from JavaScript. So how do you do all these things? You need to be able to create your element from JavaScript. So in order for you to be able to create element from JavaScript, our document is giving us the magic or the method that you can use for that, which is this create element. So when you use document create element, so what you'll be passing is the name of the element that you want to create. For example, here now on our page, so scrolling down, as you can see, we have this UL with the class item. So we want to create the li that we're going to be placing inside this UL, but we are not doing it from HTML. We want to do it from JavaScript, and then we attach it here, because whatever stuff you are creating from JavaScript, you are just creating it here. It should not get to the page directly. So you have to instruct JavaScript where you want to place that content on the page. It gave you the magic, but how to use it is now depending on you. And in order for you to create element, you are going to call this, and you pass whatever element that you want to create. And here now, going back to the page and save the code, there you see that in our console, we're going to be having the airline. So this is airline, but the airline is not on the page at all, because you are only creating it from JavaScript. You need to be able to put it on the page. But before we put it on the page, now we can put something inside it, which we've already talked about in HTML, that helps you to put content inside a particular element. So we are creating the element on line 434 there, like that, which we save inside this variable, so that it will be easier for us to use it later on. Because you always, that's why we talked about variable before. Whatever you are doing, so if that action is going to be something that is really long, or you cannot get it again later on, it's better you save it in a variable. And once you call your variable later on, it will give you back whatever value that you're working in. Because anytime you call this create element, it will always create a new element. So which means if you call it here and call it here, they are separate element entirely. And that's the reason why we create it. So in order for us not to lose that element, we are putting in a variable, so that we can reuse it anytime we need it. And don't forget, I told you, when you are dealing with documents and you select anything on the page, whatever that is coming back is always object. Anything that you are taking from the page, whatever that is coming back is always object. And this object has a lot of goodies that you need there. And one of the things you have there is this inner HTML. And that's the reason we're using dot, because when you're dealing with object, you use dot to access its property and method. And one of the property for your element is this inner HTML, which help you to retrieve or update the content you have inside that element. So right now we are creating the element from JavaScript and we don't have anything inside it yet. As you can see, we don't have anything, but we want to put something inside it. So in order for us to put something inside it, what do we use? We use this inner HTML, then we'll put the content we want to show. And again, don't forget, whatever you are doing here, any HTML code will be interpreted there. Well, I've talked about all this in yesterday. So which means even though we type this in like this, by the time we get to the page, it will make it bold like that. But instead of us putting it on the page yet, what are we doing? We are just console log out the stuff, but it's not on the page yet. So we need to put it on the page. So how do you put the content on the page? You need to know where you want to place it on the page. And I told you, anything that is already on the page, you have to query it first. If that thing is not on the page, you create it. Then if it is already on the page, if you want to have access to it in JavaScript, you query the content. The content we need right now is this our UL, because inside this UL, that's where we want to place our airline. As you can see, we don't want to do it like this from HTML. We want to do it from JavaScript. And we've started already by creating our first airline, and we're able to put the content inside that airline. But that airline right now is not on the page because it's not part of that UL yet. So how do we place it inside that UL? We need to have access to that UL too from our JavaScript so that we can place something inside it. And that's why we have this line here where we are querying the elements that have this particular class items. And if you go back to the HTML, you see that our UL is having that particular class and it's only one. Since I know that I'm dealing with one element, that's why I'm using query selector, because I know that it always return the first item for me. So I don't need to start saying whether it will return 2 or 3, even if there are multiple items there. I know that that's the only one it's going to return. Then after we have access to the element, the next thing we can now do here is to place content inside it. And one way of placing content inside element is by appending content under it. And what is append? What append will do here is that anytime you use append on any element, it will place that content below any other content that is there before. So which means if we have something like this before, which is going to be 50% discount. So by the time we use append into this one, it will never delete this. What it will just do here is that it will go to the under this one, then now create that one that we have there. That's what we call append. But if you use inner HTML, it will not even work with when you are dealing with element. Inner HTML will clear everything that is there before, and it will now put whatever you type inside that your code. That's how inner HTML works. But most of the time, that's not what you want. You want to add to the end of the content you have there before. So save this, go back to the page. We should have that li here. But now the one we want to create from JavaScript, which is this our first li. So let me just put it that from JavaScript like that. So save. Again, too, nothing will happen yet because I've not really performed that magic. So in order for this thing to be able to appear inside this one, so we need to call this our item list, then append child. So this append child, there are two. We have append and we have append child. So when you use append child, this one will allow you to just add, if you have one item you want to add it, just use append child. But if you have multiple items you want to add at the same time, then you use append. Append allows you to add one or more item, but this append child, it's kind of as simple because it knows that it's only focusing on one thing at a time, so it doesn't need to be doing a lot of work, so it will be faster there like that. But you don't even notice any delay except if you are working on something that is really large. But for now you don't even see the difference between append and append child there. The only thing that is different there is just that append child is only dealing with one item, while append is being with multiple items. So here now save like that. So Control S, and going back to the page, you see now it has been added to the list. So the end, and again too, the first is bold because we are using inner HTML. But no, if you are using inner text, this one doesn't care about your tag. It will just put it the way you type. Anything you put inside the text, the way you type it, that's the same way it's going to appear on the screen. But I don't want to use this one. I'll be using inner HTML like that. Again too, assuming we want to add another element too, so we can create that element, the second element, then we'll put the content we want to show, and at the same time we append the stuff. So don't forget, we append the first item, then this one will not appear under it. So which means we are going to have the one from the HTML, then the two from the JavaScript, because it's always adding it to the end of the list. So if you check your HTML, if you check the code, as you can see, this is what we have from the HTML. But from JavaScript, we're able to add this and this to the list there like that. So you can create your element from JavaScript, and once you create the element by using this create element, then you can always add it anywhere you want on the page. But when you want to add it to the content on the page, you need to target the element where you want to host all those content there like that. And that's what we are doing on this line, which is this item list. And I told you yesterday too, instead of us just doing it one by one like this, what we can do is just to use append there. So we can append all of them at once by just using this. So so we add the first one and we add the second one. So it's adding the two of them at once. Instead of you adding the first one first, then go to the second one, add that one too, then it's get to the page. But now we're adding the two at once. So it's still going to be the same result. The difference is just how you are doing it from your code. And again too, another thing that I mentioned is that the order matters. The arrangement, when you're dealing with method or you're dealing with function, the way you arrange your parameter, that's the same way it is going to pass them in. So which means this is the first one, this is the second one. But that doesn't mean if you rearrange it, the name will just doesn't work based on the name. I'm the one that is using that name. So if I do it like this, it means the second one will be the first, or it's going to be the second item. Why this one will be top? Because we have something there already from the HTML. But assuming we don't have anything from the HTML, so let me just comment this one out so that it will be clear. So that means this one will be the first item, even though we are calling it second. But this one is going to be the second because the arrangement matters. So by the time you get to the page, you see that the second is the first item, while the first is now the second item. So when you are arranging them, you need to pull them according to the way you want them to appear. So the time this one will be useful is when you already have all the elements in batch. You just send it to it and it will put all of them at once. But if you are creating them one by one or you are working line by line, you can always be using this append to be adding them one by one. You don't need to wait until you get to the end and you now append all of them there like that. So it all depends on, so the method you use depends on the scenario or what you are currently doing at that moment there. So another thing that we talked about is we can manipulate the attribute of any element. We can manipulate the attributes of any element. For example, here now, when you're dealing with inputs, inputs have a lot of attributes. Like it have, maybe it's require, it have type. For example, if you go to any site, have you ever wondered, if you go to any site, you want to sign in, and on the box, the password fix, the field there, you see that it's I there that you can click. When you click on it, it will toggle between the password is showing. We are going to do it by the time we get to the event. We are going to do it soon. That's part of what we are going to do when we get to the event part. But we are going to be using something I want to talk about now. So if you go to a site there like that, for example, I have this site and I can click on the login. Can you see this site? So once you are typing, see that the password is not showing. But now if I click on this, it's showing password. What this thing is actually doing is that it's toggling the attributes of your input. Now, when you say input of type password, you will not see what you are typing. And when the input is of type text, you see what they are typing. That's what this thing is doing. What it's just doing there is changing the type of the input that you have there, that attribute type that you have there, like that. So for example, here now, let's go back to our page. We have this input from the HTML, like that. But yeah, so let me just come down here. I'm just going to put this form here, like that. It's not a must that it is inside form. So inside this form, I'm going to have the input, and that is going to be of type password like this. Then this is going to be password. The ID too is going to be password, like that. So again, this is going to be placeholder. Enter your password like this, and after that, we're going to have a button which we are going to be working with later on, which is going to be toggle like this. But in order for this thing to work, we need to put the type. So the type of this one is going to be button because we don't want it to submit. No, don't forget, anytime you have button inside form, it will add as submit by default. But I don't want it to add as submit. I want it to be a normal button so that when I click it, I'll be the one that will attach what I want it to do. But for now, the button doesn't need to, doesn't know how to work until we get to the event part. But the only thing we just need right now is that input that we have there. As you can see, the input right now, it's of type password, but I want to be able to manipulate the attributes of this my input. Like any of these attributes that I have here, I want to be able to manipulate it. So how do you manipulate the attributes? So you can use this set attribute to set if it is not there before, like that, or you can use get attribute to get any attribute you are looking for there. So for example, let me just come here. So const input like this. Input is going to be documents. Did I use this? That's not what I use. So what I would do, okay, I think let me see, the ID there is password. Yeah, so the ID is password, not, yeah, the ID is password, not input. What's wrong with this AI? So yeah, so now let me console log it out. So input like this, so save, go to the page, and let us go to the console so that we see that, as you can see, it's targeting that our input. But now we want to manipulate the attribute that is there, or you want to working with the attribute. So here we can do input, then set attribute like this. So what attribute are you setting? No, this is what is even there before. So saving this and console log it out, there won't be any much change there because that's what we have there before. Let me go to the, you can see we won't have any diff. But now that's not what I want to do. What I want to do here is I want to change the type to text. You know, from the HTML, the type, so from the HTML, the type is password. But now from JavaScript, we are setting it to another thing. Yeah. And by the time you go to the page, can you see the type is now text? So if you go inside the box now, you see that what you'll be typing now is going to show. But later on, we are going to attach it to this button. So that is when you click on the button, that thing will perform, not like when you load the page. Because if you look at the side now, it's not happening until you click on the stuff. So that's where the event will come in soon there. But the major thing here is that you can manipulate the attribute of your element, and you can check whether it have this particular attribute like that, or remove any attribute you don't want. For example, here you can do input.as attribute. So this one will check whether it have that particular attribute or not. So for example, I want to check whether it have this required attribute. If it is there, you get true. If it is not there, you get false. So it will give it true or false. Whether that, based on that, you can now decide. As you can see, what we are getting is false. So that means that that attribute, as you can see, is not on that element. But here now, if I use placeholder, so placeholder like this, and save it, go back to the page, as you can see, it's true because there is placeholder attribute on that element. So as attribute will return true or false where based on whether you have that stuff there. And again, if you want to remove any attribute that you don't want again, you can use this remove attribute. I don't want to remove type. What I want to remove there is going to be ID. So on this element, I don't want to have ID again. Currently, if you look at it, we have ID of password, but I don't want to add that attribute again because something has happened from my, or user has done something that doesn't require this thing again. So I want to remove that attribute. And once you do this and go back to the page and check it from the other side, which is going to be this, you see that there is nothing like ID attribute again. From HTML, we have the ID attribute, but in our JavaScript, we are removing the attribute like that. So this one allows you to manipulate attributes. Even it can help you to work with class, but I told you don't use it for class because JavaScript is giving us all the element itself. It's having the class list that you can use to manipulate the class easily, which is really better than you working with your inputs directly there like that. And that's where we kind of stopped yesterday, even though the audio was not working. So that's why I have to go back again to talk about them. But today, I want to talk about events. You know, I mentioned it there. So event allows you to listen for some changes on the page. And based on those changes, that's when you want to react to them. So event allows you to listen for changes on the page, and you listen for those changes. And once that thing happen, the browser will trigger whatever stuff you want to do anytime that event occur. And on the page, we have different type of events that you can listen for. We have the keyboard event. So which means when the user is typing, you want to listen for what they are typing. we have the scroll event. So anytime they are scrolling on that your page, you want to listen for that scroll. You want to do something when they scroll. Now I told you this stuff that is at the top. So it's only change, as you can see that it's changing as I'm scrolling up or down, because it's kind of telling you where you've reached, the percentage of what you've reached. You can see it looks like we have at this middle of the page like that, or you are close to the top of the page. So how does this say know where you are currently? Because it's listening for the scrolling events are there like that. So we have the form event. So the event you can, when you are dealing with form, so you can attach events there that anytime someone submit the form, you want to hijack it. For example, like this side now, it's listening for form events. So if I try to log in, you can see it did not submit. It's brought out this error that I've not done anything there. You know, the error did not come outside until the button to log in. It's because it's waiting for you to submit. So you listen for that event that, okay, anytime someone submit, oh, I want to do some stuff first before something will happen and so forth like that. So you can listen for the form event. So we have the keyboard event, you have scroll event, you have the click event. So click event is you click something, so you want something to happen on your page, which is what we are going to be using here. So click event means you click on that stuff. So when you click on that stuff, you want to do something, so you listen for the click that happen on a particular element. Again too, we have double click, you have the right click and so forth like that. You can listen for different events. So this one is known as mouse event. So all this click and whatever, so they are different because no, it's happening on the mouse, so they are referred to as mouse event like that. We have different type of events, so a lot of them. So type of events in JS like that, we are going to see about. It's not every time you work with all of them. So the major one, the most used event out of them is the click, because user used to do click, click, click. There's no way you go to a site that you not click. It's not possible. So it's one of the most used. As you can see, that's the only, it's the first thing you always see. So Mark, can you see something? So when the mouse is on top of it, something is happening, and when you leave, but it's only when you go there. How does it know you are already on it? It's because you are listening for that event to occur. Anything that happening on the page, there's always event about them. So it's that less for you to listen for it, and when that thing happen, you want to do something on the page like that. So as you can see, all this one, this is a part of your input. This one happen on the input. So anytime you're changing your stuff in your input, it will fire like that on click, even though it's kind of a crazy. So for this one are part of the keyboard. No, this one is part of the keyboard. This one is when your page load. Like, you know, when you go to any site, it has to load first. For example, the reload, as you can see. So when everything is done loading, it will fire that event. Or when the browser is done loading the content of the page, maybe that's when you want to do something, then it will fire the events like that. So, but how do you do this thing? So how do you work with events? So how do you work with events in JavaScript? We have the simplest way of working with events by just doing it directly from your HTML. You don't even need to have any JavaScript at all. You can attach events to any of your, you know, just like your CSS, you can use inline CSS by using style, and you apply whatever you want without using any external or embedded. The same here too, you can attach any event to your element. So when you're doing it from the HTML, all the events start with on. Once you type on, as you can see a lot of them, but it's not all of them that work on this section. Okay, because like this one and like this can play. You know, this thing cannot play like that. So, but the one I actually need is this on click, but I don't want to apply it on this one. I want to apply it on this my button. So yeah, I'm going to do on click. And what do you want to do? Whatever you put here is the JavaScript code you want to run. Whatever you put inside the code is all about JavaScript. But you know, this thing is not that easy to work with from the HTML. For example, I just want to do alert here. Alert is another thing that the browser is giving you, and it's used to kind of output message. You just clicked me like this. So save, and if you go back to the page, as you can see, nothing is happening because the event has not yet occurred. The only time you have that stuff is when you click on the button. So this is the alert. It will now pop out like that. So any site you see that is showing this in, that's how they are able to bring it out. It's not only alert that we have confirm too, that asks you a question that yes or no. Because if you go to some site, you know, when you are doing something and you want to close it, it will ask you, are you sure you really want to close this in? Then when you click on yes, it will close. When you click cancel, then it will continue whatever you are doing. So you can always do that too, which is confirm. So we have the confirm. Then this one will either it will return true or false. Based on true or false, you can do whatever you want to do like that. But this is not what I want. I don't want to do it from my HTML. I don't want to do it from my HTML because all my JavaScript code are going to be inside JavaScript there like that. So I'm going to be removing this. But anytime you want to do it from JavaScript, from HTML, just start with on and you see the list of all the events you can perform on that event. But I don't want to do it here. So I'm going to be targeting this, my button there. But I think I have two buttons. Yeah, I have two, but no, I only have one inside form. So here now, let's toggle btn, which is for button. So there's going to be document like this, then query selector. Then I have form inside the form. You can see now I'm using only the button that is it's not only one button that I have on this page. This is one button here. This is another button, but I'm only focusing on the one that is inside form like that. So and we can console log out this stuff. So console log out toggle button like this. So if this thing is getting to the page and is selecting it correctly, we are going to see that in the console we have access to that button. But we don't care about the button itself. We want to attach something on it. So which means anytime the user click on it, we want to toggle this in there. We want to toggle on our input. This input too, we need to select it. Don't forget anything you already have on the page and you want to have access to them from JavaScript, you need to type them. So yeah, I'm going to have password. So I'm going to call it password input, which is going to be this. So how do you now add events? So how do you add events? So to add event, you are going to be having your element. Your element is whatever stuff you select, then followed by this add event listener. So add event listener, and this is what you do. So what do you do here? This is a method that is coming from whatever element you select on your page, like that. Then the first argument that you need to pass is the event that you are looking for. That element can perform different action, and those action can trigger different events. So it's now left for you to mention the name of the event you want, the one you want to listen for. Because that button, you can click on it, you can double click on it, you can right click on it. So which one are you looking for there? So here you mention the name of the event. Then if this event occur, which function do you want to run? Don't forget, now I've mentioned callback for you before. We are talking about function. So this function here is whatever you want to run. The function you are going to put there is what you want to do anytime this event occur. So for example here now, what we can just do, so let me move this one up as an example. So what we can just do here is to do following that pattern. So we have this toggle, as you can see here, I have this for now, and I save the stuff. So look at it. So we have the toggle button, which is our element, then add event listener, which is only constant. Then which event are we trying to listen for? We are listening for click. So when this event occur, as you can see, I'm calling this function. So we are calling what? This function. But instead of us using this, I told you there's another method we can use, which is known as arrow. Because that one, can you see, this one is more simpler. And if you scroll back up, we've talked about, can you see, we've talked about all of them. So under the function, there like that. So let me scroll up. We talked about different function. We talked about the one with the function, with the name. Apart from that, we have arrow function. So let me scroll down where we have the arrow function. So yeah, I've talked about the callback too, which means you are passing one function to another function. Now we started using it like that. But where did I put my arrow function? It's somewhere here. Arrow function should be somewhere. Yeah, it should be up here. Yeah, so as you can see, so this is arrow function. But in case you need to reuse it later on, you need to put it as a name. But that function here, most of the time, you are not reusing it anywhere. So that's why it is placed here. But don't forget, what I just passed here is my parameter. So which means something will be coming in later on. But where is this thing coming from? You are not the one that will be passing this thing. JavaScript, this we are passing it to this add event listener. We are passing this function here into this add event. So it means this add event listener will be the one that will call the function that we have here. And that's why it is called callback function. Callback means you are passing one function into another function as parameter. So let me go back up again so that you can see. So you can, like this add event listener now, you can think of it as this function that I have up here. So where is the function? So let me go up. Yeah. So look at this function that we have. So we have these two functions. We have these two functions. Then down here, I have another function. Can you see this process user input? So this process user input, you can think it of that add event listener. So can see it's expecting a function and at the same time it's expecting a name. So can you see inside this function, that's where it's now being called. What you pass as parameter, then is now being called. That's what is going to happen to with this your add event listener. Whatever function you pass here, this add event listener will be the one that will call it later on when this event occur, and it's going to receive the event information about that event that occurred. So this E is just like the event, but don't forget your your parameter. You can name it anything you want. So if you look at up here, you can see my own. I'm calling the function f. Then anytime it's called, as you can see, I'm now passing name inside it. So which means, can you see the way we are now using it? So is process, we pass the function, then we pass the parameter. So can you see that that function is expecting a name, but this name we call it here. If you want, you can call it k, it doesn't matter. But what is going to get passed later on is this function that is going to send it down to it. But that thing is what we are now receiving as k here. So instead of us doing it all the same, we are the one doing it by ourselves here. But for what we have down there, is not us that is doing it again, is now coming from the browser. So the browser has already handled all the necessary stuff. Our own is now to pass the function we want to run anytime this event occur. And any event that occur, it will give you the information about that event. So you can now receive it here. If you don't want to receive it, maybe you don't care about that, you don't need to put the parameter at all. You know, you are defining your function. Whatever you define your function will receive, that's what it will receive. If it's not expecting it, it will not cause error. It will just perform whatever you want to do. So yeah, so whatever you put there, this is the call back action here, and it will be executed when whatever stuff. So let me put this into a separate line, view, then word wrap like that. So as you can see, so this stuff here, whatever you want to do here, for example here, let me just do console. Let me just do console keyboard. What's going on? Save like this. So now let's go to the page. As you can see, nothing is happening. Let me remove this one because I don't need it. So save. As you can see, nothing is happening because these codes that we have there, it will only happen when you click on wherever you attach the event. And when do you attach the event? You attach it on this button. So once you click on this button, it will call this your function. And once you call your function, then it will perform everything you have under it. And what do we have right now? What we just have is to console log out. You just click main. So now in order for this thing to work, we just need to click. And as you can see, that's when it will fire or carry out the action. Again, to keep doing it. So that means I've clicked on this button 6 times like that. But that's not what I want. What I want is that whatever I type inside this box, I want to be able to see the stuff. So, you know, and this is where JavaScript comes in now. Because it's not about you knowing the code. You need to be able to streamline the process that you need to follow before you achieve your. So the first thing you need to know, what are you trying to solve? Then after you know what you are trying to solve, the next thing is what steps do I need to take to solve that problem. So what are we trying to solve here? Our problem is that we have this box here that is showing password by default, password box. But anytime the user click on this, we want to be able to change what is there to something that the user can see. That's the problem. So how do we now solve that problem? So the way to solve the problem is, you know, the thing that is when you click the box, is when you click on this that it will show. But if it is already shown, like if this thing is showing already, then that means you have to hide it again, just like the way we have it on this side. So it is toggle, because if it is not showing, then if you click on it, it will show. But if it is already showing and you click on that same element, then it will hide. That's why we call it toggle, because it's on and off there like that. So how do we do this in? You already know that in order for this box, so in order for this box to be able to show what is inside it, it means that attribute type have to be text. You know, we are trying to solve the problem now. In order for this box to be able to show what is inside it, that means the attribute type of that input must be text. Because if it is still password, there is no way you see what is it. So what do? It means we need to switch we need to change that attribute type to the one that is going to make us to see what is there. But you know there's a problem. You can't just switch it like that. Why? Because we are talking about toggle. No, the thing I have to check first whether it is showing or not. So if it is showing, this is what I want to do. Then if it is not, this is another thing I want to do. But how do you know whether the value is showing or is not showing, or whether the value is text or it is password? That's where all the stuff that we talked about at the top here. You know, you can set, but apart from set, you can get the attribute you are looking for. So for example here now, what I just want to do is to do, so let's const, so let me just say current type like this. So current type is going to be password input, then get attribute. Don't do anything yet. So here now, what we just want to do is current type. So when you use get attribute, it will always give you the value, the current value that you have inside that particular attribute. So if the value there is text, it will return text. If it is password, it will return password. Then we can now go back to our conditional statement we've talked about before. That's the reason we talked about all those things. So now we need to, so based on that, we can check if it is this, do this. If it is not, do that. So now I'm going back to the page. Nothing will show yet, but now if I click on toggle, as you can see, it's telling us that the current one there is password. Again, going back to the HTML, change it from this to text like that. Then it's still the same code, because the thing, that's why the is dynamic. Your code will not change. The value is what is changing. There. So click on toggle. As you can see now, it is text. So we know that if the user can see what is there, that means it is text. But the user cannot see what is there. But there's no way you know ahead of time. There is no way your own is down to write the code that can do that checking when the user is working with it. So how do you now do it? So since we know the type, what we can do now is to do our conditional statement. As you can see, we can do that our if statement that we've talked about. So what we are doing is that if the current type, it can be text or password. So what if this thing is text? It to be text. Is it the same thing as password? What you get is that true or false. So if it is password, as you can see, it will update it from whatever password that is there and change it to text. But if it's not, then that means it is text before, then it will switch it to password. So now save the code and go back to the page. Let's type something inside the box. Let me go and change it back. It should be password by default, not text. So password, but you can start with text too, but it doesn't make sense that your password is showing by default, because that's security risk. Insecurity. So even the toggle is there, but by default it should always be something that, because a lot of people can be there at that time. So if I want, I can toggle. If I don't want, I will just leave it. But by default, it should not show, because if a lot of people are there, they will see whatever I'm typing. So now, as you can see, it's on there. So now once you click on toggle, it will check. So that is do the checking. So it is, can you see what it's showing? Password. So since it's password, it will come here first, give us the type. By the time we get to the type, then it will text this condition. What is the condition? Is password equals to password? Since they are the same thing, that means this one is true. It will enter here. And since it's enter here, as you can see, it will change the type to text. It will not do anything here, because the way if X work. So that's why we talked about all this thing, because now you will start using them in a real place there like that. So again, now if you click on it again, as you can see, it's go back, because we are dealing with toggle. It's still the same button, not that we have two buttons, that one will toggle and one will off. It all depends on how you are solving your problem. So if it is two buttons, like one is on, one is off, that means you have to attach event on both of them. One is, the on knows that his own job is just to set it to text, while the off means just set it to password. But we are using one button. There's no way to know which one is there currently. So what do you need to do? You need to query the stuff. Give me what is there currently at that time, because anytime the button is clicked, because the button can be clicked multiple times. The first time it might be text, but the second time is password. So it needs to always, that's why this one is not outside. It is inside the event, because anytime the event occurs, that's when you want to do all those checking. But if you know that something that is not dependent on the event, you can put all those one outside of here. But if something that you need to get the latest value at the time this event occur, you always put everything inside the function that you want to run. If I put all this in outside, it will just work once and it will never work again. But here now, it will always work every time you click on the button there like that. So this is one way of solving the problem, and you can see the application here of what we just did now is what is here. Even though there's some other crazy, the arrangement here is different, but it's just using HTML and CSS to put them on the same line. Here this is button, but inside the button, instead of it to be text, we are now using image. That's just the stuff. Or it's using SVG icon. Again too, the icon is changing based on whether it is on or off. We can do that one too. We are going to add that one too now. So as you can see, when it is on, the eye is showing that it is showing, and when it is not, then it shows that it's closed. The same thing here too, we can apply it to this our element, because everything that we need is already here. So instead of it to be toggle, what we can do here is to show or hide. The text there will either be show or hide based on whether this thing is hidden or not. So when it is not showing, like when it is password, the text you are going to put there is show. But when it is text, the text you are going to put there is hide. So how do we do that? By default, we know that it is password. That means it is hidden. So what we can just do here is to put show like this. So by default, it will just be this. So by the time you go to the page, it will show. And again, put in the content here and click on show. But now it's showing already. So we need to change the text to hide, because it's already showing. So the text needs to change. So that one now is depending on the event. So that means we need to put it here. So what we can just do here, we already have access to everything we need. So we can now do toggle button, then inner, for you to change the content, you use your inner HTML. So when it is password, what we want to do is to show hide. That's the text. Then when it is here, this is what we want to show. So when it is having password, the text is going to be show. But when it is password, then the text is going to be hide. So save, go back to the screen once again. So type something so that we know what is going on. Then when you click on show, as you can see, it changed to hide. And when you click on it, then it's run it again, then it updates the stuff. So that's the reason why I talked about all those things before, because by the time I started using them, it will, if you don't know what is going on with all this one, it will, like, we just started using HTML. We just get to the DOM and we started using HTML, or we started doing event, it will not make sense. But when you talked about all those basic stuff first, then by the time you started using them, they will come together and you start having, so this is the reason why I did, this is the reason why, this is the reason why, and so forth like that. So that's how this thing works like that. So the event, this is one way of doing it. There's still another way of doing it, but this is the best way I love to do it. If you want to do it another way, you can always do something like this: input password. So this is another way of adding event. So we have another way of adding event, which is going to be your element, then on event, then whatever function you want to run. So this is another way of doing the stuff. So password, input like this. So we have this event. So this is another event on your input. So look at it, look at it, look at it, look at it. So this is another way of adding events. But I don't like this method because this one can override each other. Like when you do this thing multiple times, the last one is what is going to see. Like if I do this thing again, and here I'm doing two like this, it will not be saying this one again. This is a one. No, this one now is doing it through object, or it's using the dot notation to override. This one now is just like you are changing value. So this is the value you are putting for it for the first time. Then the second time you are now changing it to another thing. But when you are calling this add event list, as you can see, this one, look at the name, add, is not really replacing what you've already added before. It's adding new. So which means you can add multiple click events to that your element, and they are going to do different things. One is going to transfer money, one is going to deduct money, like that. Even though it's not making sense, but that's just what is there. So this one, if you are doing it like this, if you do this your stuff again, it will always remove the last one. The last one will always remove the one you had before. But if you have add event list now, it will keep adding event. Again, too, we have remove event, because like sometimes you add event, but you don't want that thing to work again. For example, that's a button to transfer money. The once that money is transferred, we don't want you to be able to do that stuff. So we are going to be talking about advanced part in the next class when we are using it in recent. So when we get to the real part, we'll be using it. I will bring in all those advanced one, but these are the basic stuff you need to know under the event. So this one too now, as you can see, we're adding event. Anytime I'm typing on my button or my input, I want to be seeing what I want to be receiving what the user is typing at that point and do something. For example, now if you go to this site now back again, if I type address, as you can see, I see that the message is changing as I'm typing. How does it know that you've inserted correct email or not? It's because it's listening for all the stuff you are typing inside that box. So it's not cross-checking whether it's following a valid email or not. It's follow it, it not see the image going. For example, if I put something like this, as you can see that it disappeared. But now if I put, how does it know that there's, you can see the feedback is instant. It's because it's listening for what you are typing. So and how to do something like that on your input is by using this input event. So when you are doing on, this is how to do it. But if you want to add event listener, you can do it like this. So password input, then add event listener, then you don't need to be adding on. When you are, just the name alone is what you put there like that. So here now, and again, please, here we did not receive information about events that occur. So how do you now have access to what the user is typing at that point? Now I told you your method or this your callback will receive the information about the event that occur. And what you are receiving here is depending on the type of the event you are listening for. So a click, it has some information it's going to send to you. When you're dealing with input, it has information it's going to send to you. So, and how do you know the event that is being sent to you like that? So what I can just do here is to console log out the event. So the event, it will tell you the type of the event that occur, and it will give you some extra information under it like that. So going back to the page, like this, so nothing will happen yet until you type. So type, as you can see now, can you see input value change? That one is the one that I put here. So let me comment out this one so that we only have one of them. Yeah. So once you type, it doesn't care. But there's one on change. On change, as you are typing, it will not give you anything until you leave the box. When you are still typing, it doesn't do anything. But once you now leave the box, it will now give you all the changes you've made inside that box. But if you need the updates to be in time, the way you are typing, like as you are typing it, you are getting the update instantly, then what you use is input. As you are inputting the stuff, but when you say change, that one too will give you, but the time it's going to give you is what is different. So with change now, so if I come here as I'm typing, as you can see, it will not give you until you now leave. That's when it will not give you. So now as you can see, the event that occur, the name is just event, and the type, it will give you the type of event that occurred. As you can see, the type is change, which is something you already put in your code, so you don't need to be using type again. Except if you are using generic event, that's when you can be checking type. But there's no way you select, like you are talking about change here, the type you now be getting will be different. No, it will never be different. But what is there is that it's going to give you some extra information. But the major information that you need here is this target. And again too, there's another one there which is current target. Yeah, this one. But I will be explaining that one later on. Target is the element that trigger the event. The element that trigger this event is what we call target, because you can attach event on this H1. But if you have another element inside it, whatever that is inside that element, they can trigger that event. So here, let me attach the event on the main. So, or no, it's a click that can work there because change will not work. So imagine this event now that I attached, this event. Let me select another element so that I can understand this. Understand this thing. So main. Let me attach it to main element. So main element is going to be this one. Then main element attach click event. So this is main element click like that. Again to no trigger. So let's call it, yeah. So it already, you already put the text there. So let me do the other one. So attach element is going to be event dot current target because they are quite different. What is missing? My bracket is missing. Where is the bracket missing? Okay, it's missing here. Okay, like that. So Anytime you are working with all these events, majorly you always see this target and this current target there. So what is target? What is current target? Like that. So target is the element that trigger the event, but not necessarily the element that you attach the event on. You can see now, here this event here is attached to what? It attached to main, but that doesn't mean it's the main that will always trigger that event, because there's some other thing inside main. As you can see inside the main, that's where you have this image, that's where you have this h1, that's where you have all these elements. So when you click on them, they will trigger the event too, because of the way the event work. The way the event work is that it bubble up. What is bubble? Bubble means that if we attach event on the parent and you click on, you perform that same event on the child, or anytime you perform any event on any element, it will check, does that element, is it listening for that event? If it's listening for it, it will do whatever that is doing there. Then again too, it will go to the parent again. Are you listening for the event that get triggered on this child? If that one too is doing it, it will keep going up. That's what we call bubble. It starts from the one you click on and it keep moving up until you get to the final element on the page. So here now, if you click, so this is how it works. So if you click on this button, it will check, do you have that click event on this button? If you have it, it will perform whatever you are doing. Then when it's done, it will come to the form. Form, someone click on your element. So do you have something to handle it? If it doesn't have, then it will leave that one too. Go to the parent of that one too, which is now this section. Section, someone click something inside you. Do you listen for that event? If you listen for it, it will do whatever that is there. But if it doesn't do it, it will leave it. Then the next one, main, someone click something inside you, and that's the reason why you see that the event we attach here, it will still be working even though we click on something inside it, because anytime you perform any event on any of them, it will check that element first, whether it can handle it or not. If it can handle it, it will do it, but it will still check the parent too. But later on, you are going to see how to solve that, because that's problematic, because not every time that what happened in the child, even though the parent too is doing his own, you don't want the parent to be listening for what is happening with the child inside there. But those are the advanced parts that you'll be talking about. But for now, based on what I want to talk about, this is how event work. It's bubble. So which means if something happen inner, it will do from inner all the way to outer element. So if something happen with this input, it will carry out the action. If you have it, again too, the form too will handle its own. Then the parent of the form too will handle its own, which is going to be section. Then the parent of that one too, which is main, will handle its own. If that one to have the click and so forth like that. So anytime you click on something, any item inside, if it is element, it will happen on that element. The parent of that element too, if it have it too, it will work. And that's the reason why here in our code, even though we are attaching the event on the main, if you click on something inside main, it will still come here and do what is here, because anytime you click on anything, it will check, does that element have it? If it doesn't have, or it have it, it will perform it, then it will go to the parent. And you know, based on our arrangement here, for example, if I click on this h1, can you see I did not attach anything on h1, but it's now doing something that is coming from main. So but how do you know which one trigger the stuff? So which one, even though that's not the element attach it on, but which element trigger the action? Because you are going to have a lot of necessary elements. That's where target comes in. Target will be the element that trigger this event, but not necessarily that the one that you attach event on. Why the current target is the element that you attach the event on. It will always be the element you attach the event. And that's the reason why you see that on this page. Can you see? Attached element is main. That's where we put the event. But the one that actually trigger it is h1. The element that trigger the event is the target. But sometimes too, it might be the one you attach the event on. Because if it's the one, as when you attach it on the h1, it will be the current target and it will still be target. So event target is the one that trigger it, not necessarily that the one that create it. So why the current is always the one that you attach that event on. Wherever you attach the event on is always what this one will be giving you. This is it here. We have this main element. So inside our main element, as you can see, this is main here. So we have this main inside the main. Let me forget about this one. So inside the main, as you can see, we have section. Inside section, we have H1. So what you do here is that we click on this H1. But you know the H1 is not listening for any click. So you check, are you handling click? Since it's not handling click, you just ignore it and go. Then it comes to its own because it has to keep checking until it get to the final parent. Like any element you click on, from that element upward, it will keep checking for any one of them that is handling the stuff. Like, is there anyone trying to handle this stuff? So he checked the H1, H1 is not handling it. So he checked section, section 2 is not handling it. Then it now check this main. Oh, main is handling that event, which is what we have here because we attach a click on the main. So since main is attached on it, then it will now perform everything we have here. But sometimes you want to know the actual element that trigger. You know what we are doing, you are tied to the main, but not the main that will always trigger the stuff because some elements are inside it. So those elements too can trigger the stuff. So how do you now know which one inside it that trigger that stuff? That's what we call target. Any element that trigger this event is what we call target. But at the same time, it might be the one you attach the element on. Because if it's only the one that is there, like if you attach it to H1, you know there is no, it's just normal text that is there. So text is the same thing as that H1. But this main, it have other nested elements inside it. So now, this current target is always the one that you attach event on. Right now, I don't even need to be doing this because I know that I attach it to this main element. But when you are creating content dynamically, there, you know, there's no way you know ahead of time that this is the element that you attach to. You know that all those are headline that we are creating. No, you are going to be creating them like as the user is typing on the page, you are creating a line for it. No, there's no way you know that it's the first one or it's the second one or it's the third one. But through this current target, you'll be able to know which specific element that thing was attached on there. And this one will always tell you which element triggered the event. And that's the reason you see that on this page, after clicking on this introduction to whatever stuff, as you can see, he said the one we click on is H1. But the one we actually attach it to is main. Main is the one that actually had that event. But the one that trigger it is our H1. So now if I click on another element, for example, like this morning now, as you can see that it's still the same code, but now it's telling us that the click one is this span. Why that main is still there? Because that one will never change. The only time you'll be using this one is when things are coming dynamically because you know that you already have access to it here. So there's no need of you using current tangent. Current tangent is the same thing here. But if it is dynamic that you don't know ahead of time, so you can use this current target to know what or which element you attach the stuff to. Why this target is the one that trigger it. And that event itself, as you can see the type of event that occur. So this click event is part of the pointer event. So it's coming from pointer, you're clicking something like that, which is still part of mouse. You have mouse too, which is you moving mouse around like that. And again, it comes with a lot of information that you can know where the user click on, because sometimes when you click on something, you want to show something on that at that place. So this one is what you can use to do all those mathematics later on, where we have the client X, we have the client Y, we have the and a lot of other to layer so all this thing will give you like from here to here. So the distance from this side to here is what you call the X. So for the Y, from here to here where you click, that is Y. But it's not really giving you, don't forget, I'm talking about this to this. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the entire page stuff. Some page, you can scroll up and you can scroll down. So if you want to actually get the entire stuff, you have to remove the one inside from the one that is giving you here. So that's why I said it requires some mathematics to actually get the point. But that one is just simple stuff. It's just simple mathematics. This mouse is telling you based on the current scroll position you have right now. It's telling you that your client X, like it means from here to that place that I click, is 456 pixels. So from up to that one is around that 400 whatever stuff. But in order for you to get it for the entire page, you have to calculate, you have to take all those spacing, all those your scroll. You have to know them. So you need to know the entire scroll that you have there. And in order for you to know that, you can do it by using window. This entire stuff that you are working with, like document, is talking about everything inside this white box. Why window, which is another thing given to you by the browser, is talking about the entire stuff, like the entire window. And window and document is part of the window. So again too, another object that you can use that we're going to be talking about later on is window. So it's just like so this window, it give you information about everything about this window, and that's the reason why you see no I use alert that time. The alert is actually coming from window. That's the reason I was able to use it, because you cannot just use anything that JavaScript doesn't know about. The reason it was able to work is because alert is part of that window, and since document is, if you scroll down under this window, you are going to see document is part of it. There, can you see document is a subset of window. Window is the entire stuff there, but inside it, it have document. But most of the time, what you are working with is the page. So when you are working with the page itself, that is document. But when you want to work with the entire stuff, entire browser stuff, then you are now going to be using window, because window is the one that include everything. So window, then under the window, you have access to a lot of things on that is dealing with these particular windows. This is another window, this is another window, and so forth like that. So that's how it works. But yeah, so that window now, it can give you the inner, as you can see, inner is telling you, if including the scroll, like everything from up to down, including the scroll. You know, this is not the height. So from here to here is not the height, because you can still scroll up and down. But if you need that entire height, as you can see, the entire height is 500 and whatever stuff. So that's how to get the entire inner, not the entire, no, I'm only talking about the inner. If you need the outer one too, it can give you anything you need about your window. So it give you, so it give you the outer height too. So entire stuff, you can see, entire, including all these, whatever that is here. But if it is inner, it's only focusing on the inner document, not the entire, the same thing with the width too. So window, so we have the window, window, I can't type again, window dot inner width, like this. So inner width, like that, you can see from here to here is 7, whatever. You can verify here, you can see 7 whatever stuff, so you to give you the stuff. No, document doesn't know about outside stuff. Document only focus on what is inside the document inside. So again too, we have the window, then dot outer width, like that. So if you want to know the entire stuff, so it can you see it will include even the box there. So from here all the way to here, the entire browser stuff is this 1574. But if you need only this white area alone, that is the inner one, like that, and which is what you need most of the time, because nothing concerns you about this dev tools that is open. As you can see, I've reduced dev tools. So since I've reduced dev tools, it means we have more inner. So if I go to inner, as you can see, it has increased. And again, if I increase this one, that means you are reducing the inner one, like that. So as you can see, it has reduced, but the outer will always be the same, because I did not change the outer one. So if you want to change the outer one, then that means you are reducing the entire browser, like this. So you're reducing the entire browser. As you can see, it's now, before it's 1.5, but now it's now 1.2 whatever stuff. So that's how it works. So window is talking about the entire browser itself, while the document is focusing on the content you have. So since window is one that is holding what is inside, so document is always part of the window, like that. So based on what that thing is showing before, you can now subtract, do the subtraction, then it will give you the real place where you actually click on, there, like that. Because when I click on this, so here it's showing that the side is showing client X and client Y. So when you do your normal mathematics stuff, then you get the actual place that you are clicking on the page, and you can now add something to that place by creating the element from JavaScript. Then you position it at that place on the page. So that's about the stuff. So in our next class there, we are going to be dealing with, why does this thing come back to 4? So in our next class, we are going to be using what we've learned now to build something real. So we're going to be using what we've learned now to build something real. For example, here, let me open my this thing. I don't have it at that side. I think it should be, let me open another this thing. So let me bring this in here, come outside. Yeah, so going into our training, We have where's my design? So design UI. Let me open this thing directly, like that. So we worked on this preview, but we're going to be doing something interactive. So all those the one any one of them that have interactive, it means it requires JavaScript. Any one of them that have interactive. So this one, this rating is not that simple, but I want to start with simple stuff first. Comment section, no. We're going to be using framework for that this one because it simplified the process. It's not just one item there. If I said I should be doing that with this thing or start with that one, so it's a better way. It's better we do something that let me see. I think that is I don't want to start with calculator too because this one to come with a lot of things. Let me check the design. Let's check the design. So let me check the design. Why you're here? So as you can see, so look at the design here, and look at the design. So a lot of things are going on here. This is where you'll be putting the price. Again, these are buttons that you click on. So based on what you put here and what you click on here and the number of people, it will calculate the necessary stuff here. And again, when you click on reset here, it will remove this, it will remove the peak here, and remove the value here. So what we are going to do here is that we are not going to be focusing on the actual calculation there. What we're going to be focusing here is how can we connect the JavaScript part. So this is what we're going to be doing in the next class. So this is going to be our input. This is going to be our button, but you can click on them. Any one of them you click on, as you can see, this is showing you that this is a clicked one. So if you click on this, it will remove from here and it's coming. So everything that we've talked about is what is being used here. And some other stuff can come in later on there like that. But everything that I've talked about today is what is being used on this page. The only thing is just that the design part, we have to work on the design first. Then we now start adding the JavaScript. Again, too, this thing is actually showing more than this. It's showing a lot of other things when you can see when it is empty. Because they give you, this is how you are going to be working with design. The design will be given to you in a way that you see how different states is going to be. So this is state. This is what you're going to have by default. When the user have not typed, when you load the stuff, this is what you're going to have. But once they started putting something inside, this is what you now have after you've calculated everything like that. So you again too, I think there's error state there too. Error state is there. Okay, there's complete. But yeah, active state. Let me see the active state. Yeah, so the active state, yeah, so this is it. So there's a lot of things going on there. So when there's an error, as you can see, the error will appear here. When you try to do something and it's not valid, it will tell you that you need to fill in the. But we are not going to get deeper into this because if I say I should be doing it, you will get lost along the way. Because you need to, things have to go gradually, not just jump the stuff like that. But you can see everything is now the combination of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript there like that. Yeah. So in the next class, we are going to be working on a practical application, which is that. And once we're done, we are going to deploy it by making it available online so that you can share with people. But for this thing, what I just did to you two, what you're going to do, what I want you to do, what I want you to do is that you are going to create a page. That page is going to have two bulbs. That page is going to have two bulbs, but only one of them will appear at a time. So you are going to have the bulb on, so which means the one that is showing light, and you're going to have another bulb which is off. So under it, you are going to have a, let me show you the how the UI is going to look like. So where's my brush? So so this is how it's going to look like. You're going to have a page. Inside the page, at the center at the top, you have the bulb there, which is going to be off by default. That means it's showing the image of the bulb that is off. Then under it, you are going to have a button. So toggle the bulb. So that bulb or the button will have a text of on light when it is off. Then when it is on, then it's going to be off light. So but this is how the UI is going to come. Let me bring my this in. So this is how it's going to come in. there like that. So let me. So we're going to be. Where is it? I'm coming. I should be able to. Where is it? Show me the blank canvas. Coming. I want to bring the blank. Where is it? Is the window on that I p p p p p p p p. Where is it? Where is it? All right, I'm going to be checking that one later, but this is how it's going to look like. It's going to be something like this. You have where's my? That's not what I wanted to. So it's going to be something like this. You have this box. So inside this box, you have the bulb center. This is the bulb. Then under it, you have the button. So this bulb here, there are two, but only one of them will appear at the time, based on whether the thing is on or is off. So so I want you to go and try it. So inside this place, you're going to have switch on or switch off based on whether the stuff is showing the image for this one like that. So this is a pattern. So I want you to go and the way to like what you're going to use to do it. We've talked about everything. You're not doing anything outside of what we've talked about. I just want you to, because you must be able to think how to solve the problem. That's the major problem that people used to have in JavaScript. You might know what to use, but the process to follow to solve that problem is always a problem. And you know, when I wanted to do that password stuff, I have to explain the step first before writing the code. That's what you do. You don't just jump into code. You know the problem you want to solve, and once you know the problem, then what are the steps that you need to follow in order for me to be able to solve that problem. So I want you to go and do that. Then uh based on what you do, we determine by whether this is what we do in the next class first before we now jump into that advanced one, because you must be able to think on how to solve the problem, because that's a major thing about JavaScript code, how to solve problems.